And I think a lot of people at that point would be like, what's the point at this point? And I'm like, within literally the space of a couple of months, this person went from, I'm not worthy of doing anything good for myself, to I'm happy for the first time in my life.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Well Shit. It really is that simple. I'm Claire.
And I'm Serena. On this podcast, we help you to understand about your 12 universal needs, why they are currently not being well met,
How to meet them in ways that work for you, and how to consistently do so in quick, easy, and simple ways that fit seamlessly into your life.
We'll also help you to understand how doing so will have a positive ripple effect in literally every area of your life.
If you like what you hear, come and join the conversation in our Facebook group.
And enjoy the show.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, everyone.
So we made it. This is the last episode of season 4. Oh, it's been it's like, I feel like it's been for like, because I think like back to like when we were doing like the beginning of this season. And I was like, I was in a different place, like literally in a different, like you were like, It feels like it's such a long time ago that we were sort of starting off this next season. But we get to have a little break now, which is kind of exciting for the first time since beginning this. Well, we had a big break in the middle because we were doing some content work. We had a little chunk where we didn't record and release. But aside from that, we have been pretty consistently putting out podcasts for probably coming up on 5 years now, which is it's a long ass time to be doing this.
Right? It almost feels like decades, like with the amount of stuff.
Yeah, very much so. And it's so funny because like every now and again I get this twang of like, oh God, like, or twinge maybe, of me maybe I
You're trying to embody me being in the southern area.
Oh yeah, no. So I get this kind of twinge of like, oh God, are we going to get to the point where we run out of things to talk about? And then like over the course of 2 days, watch a bunch of TikTok videos, and like there's another 12 episodes like planned out in our list. So yeah, I'm not worried about that happening anytime soon.
No, give us one documentary, like
yes. Oh right, exactly. And I've been watching a lot. There's some new ones that have been coming out. It's interesting stuff. So what are you going to do with your little break?
I mean, I live on a pivot, so plans are, at least at this point in my journey, they're nice ideas to have, but the plan is to spend the summer in Yellowstone area, Grand Tetons, hiking, boondock. We're switching off this episode. We both try to be really sly when we miss our bells, but like, so if you're not on the video, we're gonna call it out anyway. You're gonna be included. But
so you're saying Yellowstone
and the Tetons, probably a lot of hiking, just kind of being immersed in nature. Our hope is to be in either the BLM lands, which is the Bureau of Land Management. I'm not sure if you're even aware, there's some free lands over here where you can just go and camp. And it's like you have to move every 14 days. But we have the setup so that we could be literally in the middle of nowhere. So the thought of being somewhere for a couple of months is really like,
yes,
it's nice.
And also being somewhere where there's kind of no one around and no obligations and no pressures and no one you've got to try and make time to see and everything. As much as I know you love seeing people.
Yeah. And there's a little bit of that out there, but it's definitely not as pressurized as the last couple of months have been in the constant moving. So I'm really I've been doing very well taking care of my security need during all of this, but there is a little bit of like that, like, oh, I'm finally just going to be in one place for a little bit. Yeah. So that's going to be my summer adventuring around the mountains.
Fun. Yeah, I've got like the exact opposite summer. like I have my family are due to come over to visit. It'll actually be the first time that my parents have come to Key West, which will be exciting to show them around. But there's a lot to see, and they're only going to be here for a few days. So I'm like, we're going to be packing it in, I'm sure, like in those few days. I'm like, we could go there and we could see this person play, and then like, later that same night we could see this person play. So I'm like I'm already trying to piece it all together in my mind. And then the rest of the family are coming over, and I will be spending about 2.5 weeks up in Orlando with all the theme parks and everything. So yeah, lots of people, not a huge amount of nature. It's going to be the kind of diametrical opposite to Serena's summer. And then my hope is to go and see a friend of mine who lives up in that area as well for a little bit. So I'm probably going to be gone for most of the month of August, which is unusual because I don't travel much at the moment. So it'll be nice to get off the rock and see friends and see family and do all the chaotic stuff and then come back to Key West for a break. So yeah, like we couldn't be going more opposite, I think, in our time.
I'm sorry, I'm just like
Key West for a break.
Yeah, Key West. I'm going to come back to Key West for a break in September.
Yeah.
Different. It would be you're coming back for different.
I'll be coming back for different. I mean, it will be a break from what I've been doing, like up in Orlando, that's for sure. And I mean, yes, we do have Fantasy Fest on the horizon in October, but at least September, it's not as, I mean, September's the quiet month here. So actually it should be less people-y, a little bit more chill. There'll be lots of Fantasy Fest prep, I'm sure. But yeah, it should be fun. It'd be nice to have a break without like panic recording around, oh God, like we need to have enough episodes to get us through the time that we're going to be offline. So yeah, it's going to be fun, very interesting, very different. And actually we decided that we were trying to figure out how do we round out this season ahead of the break. And I think that like especially at the last couple of episodes, we've been talking a lot about things that are important in the context of change. And I think that's something that a lot of people, we hear from a lot of people, is about believing that it's too late to make a significant change in their lives. Or it's too late to start learning about me, or what's the point of starting learning about meeting my needs now? Or like, what's the point in trying to change things now? And I think that, I mean, we're kind of living proof in a lot of ways that that's not the case. But also I think that we've had experience of working with clients where it is obvious that it is not the case. I mean, neither of us grew up with this kind of work. Neither of us began our lives on this trajectory. And each of us kind of came to it at different points in our lives. But there's a couple of things I want to say before we kind of get more into that, which is that life is challenging. And the good thing with Meeting Your Needs is once you know the stuff, it's so fucking easy and so fucking simple. Like it really is. And the difference it makes for the effort it takes once you get to the point where you know the things. Like it doesn't matter what point you are. If you can do something to make your life a little easier, a little more enjoyable, a little more fulfilling, it's so worth it. Like it's so worth it. And I think that part of the challenge, like if you're having that thought of like, oh, it's too late for me, or like, what's the point at this point? Or it feels like too much to do at this point. I'm going to name that I would put money on the fact that your value need is not well met, because the subtext of that is I'm not important enough to put this effort into having a more enjoyable experience of life. And I'm here to tell you that's not true, because you are. Right.
And even if it works, because I've heard a lot of people, no, I'm fine. I'm comfortable. It works. Like, what, like,
it works. And I'm putting that in like inverted commas, because a lot of the people I'm given what Serena's just said, if somebody said that to me, I mean, obviously depending on the situation, I'm probably not going to say it's the average stranger in a bar. But like if we were having like a meaningful conversation and they were like, oh, I'm comfortable. Yeah, it works. I would challenge somebody on that. Is it actually comfortable, or have you just got used to it?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just familiar? And a lot of the time it's more familiar than it is comfortable. And life is so short and so precious that anything you can do to squeeze a little bit more juice out of it, to get a little bit more joy, to get a little bit more, and like, you are worthy of having an enjoyable experience of life. You're worthy of life being a little lighter, a little more fulfilled, a little more nourished. I mean, you're worthy of it being way more fulfilled and way more nourished, but like, even if it's just a little bit, you're worthy of that. And I'm speaking as somebody who I didn't think I was worthy of that for a very long time. And there's a reason that I got to my late 30s and went, oh God, no, something's got to change because I can't do this anymore. I mean, I think mine was probably due to many toxic relationships that I was just like, something's not working. And the common denominator is me. So maybe let's look and see if there's something I can do to start to shift it. And that was what put me on this trajectory. But it's interesting. Like whenever I think about this, I always think about, I had a client of mine many years ago. She and I had met through a mutual friend, and she was very interested in what I did. And it was so interesting because she was somebody who we had a couple of conversations about the potential of her working with me. And she came to me, and I remember this conversation so vividly. And she said to me, well, at the moment, I don't think I can really justify the expense at the moment. And at the moment, I don't really need it. Like going back to what Serena was just saying, like, it's working. I don't really need it. And I said to her, I'm going to preface this conversation by, I'm not saying any of this to change your mind. And even if at the end of this conversation, you decide you want to be a client, I'm not signing you up as a client today. I want you to go away and think about it and make sure that you're not reacting to what I'm saying, that you're going and considering it and making the choice that's right for you. And we had a conversation, and I addressed the two things. And the first thing about the finances, it wasn't that she couldn't afford it. Like if it was something that, one of the things that I always say to potential clients is like, if you can't financially afford to work with me, then don't do it. Like go via the podcast. Like we're working on getting the self-study available online, because if you compromise your needs from a financial standpoint to learn how to meet your needs, you're working against yourself from the very beginning. You're undermining the process from the very beginning. So that's not something I ever want somebody to do. It wasn't that she was unable to afford it. It was that she didn't feel worthy of spending money on herself to help herself feel better. And I said to her, that's a value need thing. Like your value need isn't well met. And so what's happening is that you don't believe you're worthy of that when you are absolutely worthy of having that money spent on you to have a better experience of life. And then the second thing we talked about was the financial piece, where she said, sorry, not the financial piece, I don't really need it yet. And I said to her, I was like, again, this is a value piece, because what you mean is I'm not in crisis yet. And you believe you need to be in crisis to be worthy of the support that this offers. And the truth of the matter is, if you wait until you're in crisis, then we have to deal with the crisis before doing all the other stuff, which is the whole point of what we're doing, which is trying to get your needs better met. And more often than not, in my experience, if somebody waits to get to crisis point before they come to me, we have to deal with the crisis, and then we end up doing the work that if we'd done it prior to the crisis would have meant the crisis would have been averted. There wouldn't have been a crisis in the first place. So we would have avoided the crisis had we said, actually, no, I'm worthy of taking the time and energy to do this for myself right now. And we got to the end of the conversation. She went, okay, I'm signing up. I was like, no, I meant it when I said, I'm not signing you up today. I want you to go away, think about it, make sure you're making a considered decision. Yes, by all means, take on board the things I've said. I'm not saying any of these things to persuade you to become a client. I'm telling you them because I just want you to know the things that you need to focus on in yourself, which is your worthiness. Like that's the thing that is missing right now. That's a big piece of what's going on for you. So she went away, she came back and she said, can I split my, it was the format of the program was very different at that point in time. She said, can I split the payments over 12 months? I was like, yeah, absolutely. You just then accrue, like once you've accrued enough that once you've basically paid for a session's worth, we'll put a session in the calendar and then we'll do another one, then we do another one, then we do another one. And she said to me, okay, but can I pay for the first session up front? Because I want to start now. I don't want to wait until I've given you enough payments in order to make up for a session. So yeah, no problem. So we got into the first session and I will never forget, we got to the end of that session. I was like, so now you've got your payment set up, your next session will be at this point. And she was like, oh, no. She went, I want to pay for the whole thing up front. I want to do all of your courses. I want to be your first, I want to do your teacher training and I want to be your first trainer in this. And I was like, whoa. Hold on. This is like a complete 180 from where you were like literally 2 hours ago. And I was like, what is going on? And she said, she was in her mid 50s at this point. She said, I've spent over 50 years of my life waiting for this. She said, I can tell from what you've taught me already, this is the thing I've been missing. This is the key. This is the piece that I know that I need. And she said, I've waited over 50 years of my life for this. I'm not waiting another year. And I was like, okay, if that's what you want to do, you're more than welcome to do that. And that's what we did. And she went through the program, and maybe a couple of months after she'd finished the program, she sent me 2 pictures. And one was of a cup of coffee in a park, and one was her with a big smiley face. And she sent with the message, she said, thank you so much. Thanks to you, I'm happy for the first time in my life. And I responded back saying, I'm so glad that you're happy. You are the one that deserves the credit, though. I showed you the way. You're the one who did the work. And it was absolutely her. And I will absolutely receive the gratitude that I helped show the way. But it wasn't like that piece alone, without you doing the work around it, it's not going to make any difference. This is what I always think about. And this is somebody who was in her mid 50s. And I think a lot of people at that point would be like, what's the point at this point? And I'm like, within literally the space of a couple of months, this person went from, I'm not worthy of doing anything good for myself, to I'm happy for the first time in my life. And just imagine if everybody could get to that point of like, I'm happy for the first time in my life. Like what a different world we would be living in right now.
Well, and the realization is what is actually happy. Like we kind of get conditioned into this is what's going to make you happy, and you have this, so now you're happy, and you're like, well, I have this, so I'm happy. And I thought I was happy prior to doing the work, and in a sense I was, but there was an emptiness to it. There was a hollowness to it. Some of it was complete just
avoidance and ignorance.
Yeah. I mean, it's
reality. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I kind of look at the needs work, and really any kind of self-care, personal development, a journey of this kind, as like what was coming to me earlier when I was thinking about it was, we're all trying to navigate this. Like none of us were given a map. None of us were given any real, like, this is how it's done. It's all conditioned or learned from other people, and this worked for this person, or I'm going to try my own thing and this worked, this failed, whatever. And a lot of people don't think that they need any sort of guidance, intervening, any sort of journey. They can just be, and that's fine with them.
I think a lot of people think that they should be able to do that. There's no like actual logical background to that, like of like, oh, you should be able to have life figured out without any support or guidance. But I think that people think that that's what they should be able to do. They should be able to do it rather than that they actually can do it.
Right. Or that they need extra tools to be able to do it. Like,
yes,
they, and what comes to me is like, we're in this huge mapped out area of life. We don't know exactly where we're going. And if you're of a certain age, you probably have no clue what I'm about to start referencing. But back in the 90s, we used maps to get to wherever we needed to go. And we got there
and got lost.
Yeah. And that's how we navigated. And then like early 2000s, MapQuest came around, and we're like, how did I ever get anywhere without this printed piece of paper of directions?
Right.
And it was like, this is so much better. Oh my God. Like, now I know where I'm going. And then all of a sudden GPS comes out. I can't walk down the street without the GPS on my phone telling me to turn right. Like, how did I ever function before this? And it's like, when you think about it from the needs perspective and any sort of journey of growth, it's kind of like that. You don't realize how helpful the tool is until, like, I mean, even the thought of going back to printed like directions, I'm like, oh God, that's so archaic. Like, what?
Right. Well, and I think the thing about it is that it's not that you won't be able to get there without the tool.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could get there, but it's going to take way longer. It's probably going to be a more painful process. And like, time is precious. Like, you want to get there as quickly and as easily and as effectively as possible. And it's like, if you don't know whether the thing you're looking for is 5 steps away or 50,000 miles away, like, you're not going to be making the best choices in how to get there. Like, if you try and get on an aeroplane for something that's 5 paces away, probably not that helpful. If you try and walk to something that's 50,000 miles away, probably not that helpful. So if you like, by using the tool, you can figure out the best way to get there. And I think that's the thing, is that a lot of the time, this is the reason that we just did the episode on like microdosing discomfort to increase your capacity for it, because I think the reason a lot of people stay where they're at and they don't risk getting trying something new, they don't risk changing things, is because they're afraid it's not going to work. They're afraid of the discomfort that will come in that transitional period in between. They're afraid of the impact subconsciously. They're afraid of the impact to their needs, of what happens. Like, what I'm doing isn't horrendous. So, but what if it gets worse? What if making the change means everything's worse? Well, the cool thing is that if you've made the change once, you can make it again. Like, it's possible. Like, it's like, you have the technology. I mean, literally, it's making a choice and taking some action. That's it. But I think that's the reason we wanted to talk about increasing your capacity for discomfort, because so often supportive discomfort, and if you haven't done what I'm talking about, go back and listen to the last episode and go listen to the episode on supportive discomfort, is by definition still uncomfortable. So you need to be able to withstand the discomfort to be able to get the benefit from the change, because the discomfort is that transition period. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've moved to a new location, I've gone to a new place, and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know anybody. I don't know where I'm going. But if I wasn't willing to be in the discomfort of not knowing, I would never have left home. Like, I would still be living in my parents' house, afraid to walk down the street. And the thing about it, like, I think a lot of people, as I said, the value need is a very big thing here, because I think a lot of people don't think they're worthy of more. They don't feel like they deserve to have more in life than they are right now. Or they look at everybody else and go, well, everyone else is struggling. Why shouldn't I be struggling? Well, actually, nobody deserves to struggle. And we are all worthy of having our needs better met. We're all worthy of an easier experience of life. We're all worthy of being able to create more of what we want in life. But because we're not taught that, makes it very difficult to bring to fruition, because one of the first things you need to do, you need to give yourself permission to create something different, to be able to say it's okay. And I mean, it's interesting how, like, sometimes you'll find these people, I've seen so many instances of women, especially, I've noticed this with, where they've been in a life that they've been on the life conveyor belt. We talk about this in previous episodes. We'll put the link in the show notes, where you basically do the next thing that's expected of you, and the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. And all of a sudden you end up in a destination. You go, how the fuck did I end up here? This was not what I was aiming for, but actually it's exactly what you were aiming for, because you were aiming for the same destination that everybody else goes to through the stages that you've chosen to go through, because those are the ones that were expected of you. And it's so interesting when you see people who've been on that life conveyor belt for a period of time, and either, when it comes to women, it's either that their kids have gone off and started to live their own lives, they're adults and they've gone on, so they've like, now it's like, oh, now I get to make choices for myself. Or maybe they've been married and what have you, and they've gone through a divorce or something, and now they are liberated because they're now at the point where they can make the changes happening anyway. And I think that's the thing, is that a lot of times the reason that these things happen in life is because change is happening, so I might as well harness it for what I want to do. Well, the thing is that you can do that even when change isn't happening. You don't have to wait for these big life events, these big moments of change to go, oh, well, now's the time I can start to create more of what I want in life. You can start to do that today. And it's not always easy. But in my experience and having worked with clients all over the world, it's almost always worth it. And the benefit that you get from it, like, it's hard to put into words. Like, I don't know how to articulate the difference. Like, I mean, like, if you told me, I mean, I started my journey in my late 20s. Serena started yours, you right, in your late 30s, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you told me at the age of 25 that in 20 years' time, I would be living on a tropical island, running my own business, co-hosting my own podcast, running my own nonprofit, spending half of my life dressed up as a fairy, going around blowing bubbles and giving out mum hugs, singing on stage with a wardrobe that's probably got more sequins in it than regular clothes at this point. If you told me that's what my life would look like at this point, that I would be single, I wouldn't have kids and all that sort of, if you told me that's what my life would look like, I would be like, yeah, no. I thought I would be, I had an idea in my head about where I was going to be. Thank God I'm where I am now. Thank God I went, oh, you know what? This isn't working. Oh, that's not working. Okay, that's not working. How about I start to create more of what I want in life? And the cool thing about that is that when you do that, the very act of doing that meets your needs. Like, the choice to do that, and we'll go through like some of the things that are required in order to do that in a minute. But generally speaking, your security need a lot of the time gets a little maybe wobbly through this process, because one of the things that meets our security need is familiarity. So it does take a little bit of, okay, let's underpin that. Let's give that a little extra support. Let's give the security need some support as we're navigating this transition. That's one of the things that can be really helpful as we're going through these changes. But once you get beyond the security need, your love need, you're going to be meeting your love need because you are loving yourself by creating more of what you want in life. If you acknowledge yourself for doing it, you're going to be meeting your acknowledgement need. You're going to have a better emotional experience and expression need, because you're cultivating the situations that are going to give you more of the emotions that you want to experience. You're meeting your value need because you're saying, I'm worthy of what I want in life, and creating more of what I want in life. And your personal power need, cha-ching, like that is like, I'm choosing this, I'm creating this. That is, so just simply the fact of doing that is going to meet those needs. Even if you don't get to the point, like when that's even while you're in transition, you're still going to be meeting those needs. Even before you've got to the point where you're really starting to reap the benefits of the change. Then you get the benefits of the change on top of that as well. And it's like, oh, ta-ting, 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 ta-ting. Like, oh my goodness. Like, now all of a sudden things are starting to go off the charts. And I wish people knew. I mean, I can't tell you how many times in life I've settled. And I've stuck with what is, because it's familiar, because it's easy, because it's convenient, because I didn't think it was that bad. And I look back on those times in my life and I realized that my soul was dying a little bit. Like it was choking the life out of me. And I was trying to convince myself I was okay, because at that point I wasn't quite ready to make the change. But once it got painful enough, I made the change. And now I look back and I'm like, oh, thank God I live. It was funny. I was talking to someone earlier this week. They're like, I love your little setup here. You've got this little place that's all to yourself. Like, you're on your own. You have to worry about anybody else or anybody else's bullshit. You get to live the life that you want. I mean, I have a closet full of fairy wings and bubble boas and sequin costumes. And I love it. And I can do what I want, when I want, how I want. And I cultivate relationships that are great and that are supportive and that allow me to create more of that connection that I want. But it took change to get here. And it took a little courage to say, I'm worthy of more than this. And I think about like the big moments in time where I've like, when I left my corporate life, when I left my flat in London, when I ended several relationships, when I made the decision to start living outside of the UK and traveling, and when I made the decision to make Key West my home, all of those things were big and they were scary, but all of them got me to who I am now and how I am now. And I was going to say 10 times happier, 100 times happier, 1,000 times happier than I ever was in any of those situations. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, I'm curious, like, what your experience has been, because you and I took slightly different paths with this.
I mean, well, first, I'm not going to be able to talk about one thing without clearing out what's in my head about. I'm like holding on to a thought
yeah,
that's
absolutely, yes.
keeps coming around. I think that, and it kind of dovetails nicely on this, is I think a lot of people are scared, nervous, insert whatever word there, about change and about coming to terms. Like, it was hard when I first really started, like, not when I first started this journey, because as we've talked before, like, I kind of stepped into it. I was like, whoa, no, like, not ready for that. And that was an experience, and that was, you know, that happened for many reasons. And when I stepped back into it, like, a lot of things started to change really quickly. And I had to kind of come to terms with the fact, like, I thought I was happy. I wasn't. I thought I was doing good. I wasn't. Like, there were a lot of like truths that are true, whether I acknowledge them or not, that I was like, oh, and I've spent however many years, 30, 40 years, doing things that actually weren't serving me. And I, like, there was a little bit of a, you know, kind of like jaunt down the shame spiral of like, I could have been doing better for myself, but I wasn't. Yeah. But I also didn't, I didn't know about the needs, like, until Claire came around. Right. Like, I had heard about them kind of in an abstract concept of personal development jargon and stuff. But like, I think there is, like, as people get older, they're like, and mostly I'd say unconscious, subconscious, there's if I do better now, it's going to mean that everything I did prior was wrong.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, is that like, when you look at it in those terms and you think about it, basically what you're saying is, if you put it in a more extreme level, you basically are saying, well, I've been miserable for this long, so I need to stay miserable, so it justifies me being miserable up to this point, rather than, I am done being miserable. I want some joy in my life, and I'm going to make a change to create that joy right now. I can't do anything about what I've done to this point, but from this point forward, I can create something different. From this point forward, I can have more of what I want. And there's two best times to start making this kind of change. One is 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And the second best time is today. Because you can say, okay, I've made all the choices I have up to this point. And here's the thing, like, there's a part of me, like, I can still see the benefits in some respect of some of the choices I've made. If I'd had I said something the other day, if I'd had a healthy, supportive relationship in my early life, the needs wouldn't exist. Universal needs would not exist because I created it because I needed it, because my needs were so compromised in my relationships that I needed a way of taking care of it for myself. That's where it started from. And then all of a sudden it became something that for a tool for me to help clients with. So I can see that there is some benefit. That doesn't make that misery worth hanging on to a second more than I already have. Because I'm not looking at it going, well, that was completely shit, but look, this came out of it. So maybe if I stick with the shit, something nice will come out of that as well. How about we just shift to the nice, right? Like it doesn't make, when you put it in those terms, it makes no sense. And one of the things that's really important when it comes to this is to recognize that a lot of the time, the fear around this is the fear of things changing, most importantly, relationships changing, because so many of us are dependent on the people around us to get our needs met, that we're afraid if the relationships change, the needs are going to go with it. And so that's the reason that no matter what change you want to cultivate in your life, starting with the needs, if you know how to meet your own needs, you can navigate shit like nobody else. The number of, like, we now have like an ongoing joke now in our group of friends that when shit goes sideways, one of us will yell plot twist, and it's like, I mean, and we do get to the point where it's like, oh god, not another freaking plot twist. Can we be done with plot twists now? We're kind of over it, but we always know we'll get through it. We know we can deal with it. It's like, it's frustrating and a little annoying at times, but also sometimes it ends up working out even better. The thing though is, like, knowing, certainly from mine and Serena's standpoint, if things go sideways from a business standpoint, we're like, okay, how do we navigate this then? But it's not going to take us out of the knees, because we know how to take care of our needs in the context of any situation. Doesn't mean to say situations don't affect us, they do, but we know how to recover our needs when, if and when they're impacted. We know how to protect our needs by meeting them ahead of time, so that if we're going into a time of uncertainty where our needs are at risk, they're better protected. And so once you have that, once your needs are better met, you have the resources to be able to navigate change. You have more resilience. And like, if you want to go and listen to, we've got a podcast episode on resilience, which I think is really helpful to understand what resilience specifically is in the context of needs. You have more resource, you have more resilience. You can cope with that change way better than you can outside of it. But more importantly, part of the thing that we're afraid of with change is our needs are going to be negatively impacted. If we know how to meet them, then that risk almost disappears. It doesn't mean to say things aren't going to affect you, as I said, but it means that no matter what comes your way, you can still take care of it. You can still take care of yourself, and your needs are going to remain pretty well met throughout that. I know, Serena and I have had the conversation, the number of times that we've had the conversation over the last, I'd say, at least 7 years, maybe longer, of Serena saying to me, nobody else would still be standing if they were going through all the stuff that you've gone through. Like the amount of plot twists, abrupt end of chapters, switching to a different book without having any plan to do so, the amount of shit that's been flung at me, and I'm able to navigate it because my needs are still well met, and I know how to take care of my needs, which means that when things are changing around me, I can navigate it. But also, if I choose to change things myself, I can do so in a way which is going to be far less scary and far easier to navigate.
I think it gives you the comfort in the relationships you have, because if you're starting out on a journey of growth and development and anything in that realm, you know that it's gonna, like, the point is for it to change you. Like, you're doing it so that there is a change. Or change something. And it doesn't take too much, connecting the dots to realize that is going to change your relationships around you. It is. The people might realize, like, your relationships may realize they have growing to do as well. They may stay in the same spot. They may, you know, go somewhere out into the far, you know, reaches of the orbits. And when you know how to meet your needs, that's actually okay. And it's almost welcomed in a sense that
Right.
I know if I'm making the changes that are best for me, the changes that meet my needs in a self-first way, if a relationship is not meeting my needs or is negatively impacting my needs, I actually don't want that in my life, or I want to figure out a way that it doesn't negatively impact. So maybe there's conversations that could be had. Like, it doesn't mean like, no, I don't want this, I don't want you, poof, be gone. But that was something that, I mean, I've talked about it on previous episodes. I didn't really realize till I was already in it and I was going through all of these changes. And then all of a sudden, you know, I am looking at my surroundings. I'm like, oh, some other things need to change. Like, there's some big things that need to change. There's some people in my life that need to, you know,
the relationship needs to shift.
There's shifting that needs to happen. So, like, now I welcome it. I'm like, oh, like,
well, and I think it's important to say in that context that when Serena says she welcomes it, it doesn't mean to say it's always fun for her. Like, you can still have your feelings around it, but it's about, more importantly, saying, okay, I would far rather deal with the process of this relationship changing to something else and have it be a relationship that serves me better than have it be where it is and not really working for me and therefore not really working for anyone.
Yes.
So how do you change? Like, if you want to change something, it's like, see people going like, well, okay, it's all great that I can do this, but how? Like, what are the steps? And I mean, obviously there's a lot of nuance in this. It depends what exactly it is that we're changing. The first thing is you need to give yourself permission to create something different. Like, you got to say, I've got permission to create my life to be the way that I want it to be. Like, for the longest time, I think that I know myself personally, but I think a lot of people have these situations where they think their life is supposed to look a certain way. And so they create their life to that certain way, and they don't ever give themselves permission for the relationship, for the life to look different. And one of the things that you do is give yourself permission, be like, I have permission to change this. Like, I thought that my life, I was going to end up in a corporate job, working in an office, probably a 9-to-5, married, kids, house, family, maybe a dog.
Check.
Right. Exactly.
That was my life too. We were supposed to lead the same life. That's kind of funny.
Yes, or not. And so it never even occurred to me for the longest time that my life could look different. Like, was I aware that there were different versions of life? Of course I was. I could see that there were different people doing different things. But was that something that was okay for me to do? No. I was supposed to do the things that I was supposed to do, and that was it. And the more I started to crack the mold, I was like, oh, fuck yeah, this is way more fun. Like, what about if I tried this? And what if I tried that? And what if I created this? And what if I did this? And I'm like, oh, look at this. If you add this and this, that creates that. That's really cool. Like,
Claire comes streaming out, fuck your box.
Pretty much. Yeah. And that's the thing, is that and a lot of times, like, it's not even that somebody else has put us in a box. It's that we've looked at life and gone, oh, that's the box I'm supposed to be in. And we tuck ourselves in and put the lid on. If you're not box people, as we are not, that's not great for you. But because it's what everybody else is doing, we assume that's what we're supposed to do as well. So the first thing is, give yourself permission. This is your life. You get to live it the way that you want to. And as long as you are not negatively impacting yourself and your needs, somebody else and their needs, or the needs ecosystem, it's nobody else's fucking business what it looks like. The better your needs are met, the easier that sentence is to say and mean and believe. Like the better met my needs are. Like I could, like intellectually, I knew that some time ago, but the better my needs were met, I was like, it really is nobody else's business. Like I don't need anybody else. Do I want relationships with other people? Yes. Do I want to have great people around me and what have you? And I don't need them. And I don't need them to approve of my choices for them to be choices that are the right ones for me and for me to enjoy making those choices. So that's the first thing. You got to give yourself permission to create something different. The second thing is you got to make the choice. You have to make a choice and say, I'm going to create something. I'm choosing something different for myself, because it's very easy to get kind of caught up in like, what do I want? And like, if you want to really understand the steps of how to do this, creator approach, go back and listen to the Empowerment Ecosystem series, go back and listen to the creator approach episode, because that's where it's at. It's about figuring out, making the choice, I'm going to make something different for myself, and then going through those steps and being like, what is it that I want to create? What is my outcome? What are the options and the possibilities that are going to help me create that outcome? And then choosing the one that's going to start moving you in that direction. Choice is so important. One, it's going to meet your personal power need as you're doing it. Two, it is the essence of creating more of what you want in your life. That's what your personal power need is. It's your ability to create more of what you want in your life. So by doing that, you're feeding your personal power need. It's great. Like, and this is that internalized personal power. It's not power over other people. This is your internal power to be able to make more changes, to create more of what you want in your life. You have to put effort into it. This is one of the things that a lot of people don't do. They daydream about the things that they would like to change. They daydream about the things that they would like to have or the things that they would like to do. But they don't put any effort into actually creating those things. They don't take any action.
A lot of times, and especially personal development, I see this when people go to conferences or seminars and they come out and they're like all pumped up and they're like, I got this and I have all of these things. And then there's nothing. Like, it's like, just because you went, just because you heard the thing didn't mean that it just kind of happens.
Well, there's an old saying from, there's a phrase that we often used to use several years ago in personal development, which is called shelf development, which is that people buy all the books and they put them on the shelf, but they don't read them, and they don't, or if they do read them, they don't take any action based on what's inside them. And it's like, shelf development helps nobody. It makes you feel better about the fact that you could do something, but you're not actually doing anything with it. You're far better off taking one book and applying everything in that book than having an entire bookshelf and doing nothing with any of the things in it. So it's like, it's important to make this active. It's important to actually take the steps, and they don't have to be massive steps. Like, I think that a lot of time when you think about making change, people are like, oh, okay, I've got to quit my job. I've got to divorce my partner. I've got to sell my house. I've got to move to another country. I've got to, whatever it is. You don't have to start that big. You can start with small changes. And in fact, if you start with small changes, one, it's going to be easier. It's going to feel less scary when you're doing it. But two, if you start with the small changes that better support your needs, then what you will end up doing is having more resource to do more of the things that are going to make more of a difference. So you can build and grow from there. Now, the thing that sometimes people find a little bit challenging about this process is you have to be willing to let go of what isn't working. And again, if you know what your needs are and your needs are better met, you're meeting them for yourself, it's so much easier to let go of what isn't working. Because you look at it and go, so there's a new song out that I really like. I played this for Serena recently. And it's by, I think it's Pluma V. It's called Basic. And it's basically single woman heterosexual woman's anthem. And it's basically saying that this person was saying that they would rather be alone in their own peace than teach a grown-ass man basic needs. And one of the things that they say that she says in there, and I can't remember exactly what the lyrics are, but it's basically like, I can do this for myself, so I don't need you to do it for me. So as soon as you know how to do it for yourself, you can let go of anybody else needing to be there to do it for you. You can let go of situations that aren't serving you. Like, it reminds me very much of when Serena left her last like full-time job position. Like, the thing that made it easier for her to do that was she knew her needs. 2, she was already meeting them for herself. And 3, she then got really clear on the fact that the job itself was compromising her needs. At that point, it became a no-brainer. It didn't necessarily make it easy. There was still a process, and there was some processing that needed to go on around it. But as soon as she was in that position, it was like, oh, so I know how to meet my needs. And I'm meeting my needs, but this is costing my needs. Why am I still doing this? Oh, maybe I don't need to do that anymore. And that's the reason she's on the podcast right now is because she made that choice.
Very much is. And I can't that was meant to be my destiny, to be working in a corporate setting. Like, oh, I just think back to what it was supposed to be. Yeah. Not what I wanted it to be. And like, I kind of got tricked into thinking that's what I wanted it to be too, but that's a whole nother podcast.
Well, and this ties back into the shoulds episodes, because it's like, it's what it should be versus what I want it to be. And it's like, and it's so funny because when I think back to, if I think back or think to what I thought I wanted my life to be, or what my life should be, and I imagine myself living in that, get kind of nauseous kind of quick. Doesn't feel good. It's not a good look at all. And so it doesn't, just because your needs are well met, like just because your needs are met, doesn't mean to say it's easy to let go of things. Like, there have been so many relationships that I have grieved along the way. There have been so many ideas of things I thought I was going to do that I have let go of and I've grieved along the way. And it is important to grieve them, like, because you're letting go of something, you're losing something, or you're losing the potential of something. And it's okay to process that. And the other side of it, though, that like what you get from it, the gratitude that you have, and just like, I want you to think about it in these terms. And we're gonna do an episode next season where we're gonna start talking about more about like how important it is to really focus on the things that are draining your needs as well as meeting the needs. But if you imagine, let's put it in a really basic sense. If you have 10 things in your life and all of those 10 things are draining your needs and none of them are meeting them, and you let go of all 10 of those things for one thing that is meeting them, how do you imagine that will feel? Like, you're not being drained constantly by all these different things, and instead you have this one thing that's actually nourishing you. Now imagine if it was 2 things, or 3 things, or 5 things, or 8 things, or 10 things that are actually filling you and nourishing you versus draining you. I mean, and I've had like the example that comes to my mind is friendships. I've had so many friendships over the years that I have been heartbroken over because they've gone by the wayside. We've had a disagreement. We've decided we're not a good fit. And the amount of those, I'm like, oh, but it could have been so great. It could have been so great. It could have been so great, but it wasn't. It was draining. Mm-hmm. And now I have relationships like the one with Serena, like the one with Sharona in my life. And I have relationships that nourish me rather than draining me. The truth of the matter is, if I hadn't let go of those other relationships, there wouldn't have been space for the relationships that actually serve me and actually support me. Where I get to feel like I was saying to someone the other day that Serena and Sharona have shown me what love is. Like, I have an experience of love that I'd never had before these relationships. And in fact, Sharona's one of my closest friends. They will sometimes describe me as the love of their life. There's no intimacy there. There's no romance there in a physical sense, they're just one of my closest people in the same way as that Serena is one of my closest people. Like, I've learned what love can be through these relationships, and we've cultivated that together. Like, it's not like, oh, they came along fully formed and just taught me what it was. Like, we've figured it out together. Like, we've learned how to do this together. In fact, in some respects, I was probably a little further along than you were when we started hanging out. But then through that, Serena's also taught me, and I've then taught Serena, and then we've figured it out, and it's messy and it's beautiful and it's human and it's real. I cannot imagine what my life would be like without those two friendships in it. But if I hadn't been willing to let go of the other ones, I wouldn't have these right now. And I cannot imagine what that would, I can't imagine my life without this in it. It's just, yeah, I wish that everybody, and so here's the thing, here's what I'm going to suggest. If you're listening to this right now and you're like, part of me really wants to change, but I'm afraid or I'm scared. First thing is, you're in the right place. You're listening to a podcast about how to get your needs met. There's lots of episodes. We have an episode guide. Go have a look through that episode guide. And in fact, I'm going to suggest that during the break between now and our next, when we come back in for our new season in the fall, we have the episode guide. Go and have a look and go and find the episodes that you think are going to be the ones that are going to make the most difference to where you're at with your needs right now. The things that you really need support with in learning how to meet your needs. Start there. But actually what I'm going to do also is I'm going to refer to what we talked about in the last episode. And I'm going to suggest that you start microdosing change in the same way as we were talking about microdosing discomfort. And there's often an overlap between the two, that a microdosing of change is a microdosing of discomfort, and a microdosing of discomfort is normally a microdosing of change. So the two often are very closely linked to each other. But I'm going to suggest that you just try microdosing one thing. Start with one thing. And maybe you do one thing a day, maybe you do one thing a week, maybe you do one thing a month. Doesn't really matter where you start. Start where you've got the capacity to start, and start by changing one thing and notice the benefits. Change the thing that you know is going to support you with getting your needs better met, and notice how it feels. Acknowledge yourself for that. Recognize this is you showing you that you're worthy of love. This is you showing you that you're worthy of having a relationship having a life that is supportive and nourishing and fulfilling. This is you showing you that you have the power to choose these things and create more of what you want in your life. You're worthy of these feelings. You're worthy of these emotions. You're worthy of this experience of life. And start there. And each little step forward you make, just take that moment to appreciate it. Take that moment to acknowledge it. Take the moment to enjoy it. And then take another little microdose of change. And it might be in the same direction. It might be the same trajectory that you're moving on. It might be something else that you're looking to change. So it's like one thing might be to do with your health. One thing might be to do with your relationships. One thing might be to do with your needs. One thing might be to do with your confidence. One thing might be to do with your relationship with your children. One thing might be to do with your work life. Like, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to start with all of these things at once. Start small. Start where you've got the capacity. And the interesting thing is, doing this, and this is something actually I wanted to add into the last episode, and I realized just midway through this episode that we hadn't talked about it in the last episode, but it's relevant to this as well. So this applies when we're talking about the discomfort, microdosing discomfort, and it also talks about when it's also relevant when we're talking about microdosing change. It is important to start where you have the capacity. So if you're starting to strengthen a muscle, for example, like if you have never lifted a weight before and you try and go and lift 300 pounds in one go, that's not going to work. That's not a good starting point. You start where you've got the capacity, but then maybe you try a little bit more than that. You go a little further just to see if you could do that as well. And sometimes we're capable of what that microdosing looks like could be a little bigger than we expect it to be. Maybe we start off with a 3 pound weight and actually we go, well, I can do that. This is within my capacity. And you could just stay there. That's fine. Well, maybe next time you try a 5 pound weight or a 10 pound weight. And then all of a sudden it's like you surprise yourself and you go, hold on a second, I can do a 10 pound weight. And so it's like, allowing yourself to work within your capacity, but also test where your capacity is. Don't just assume you know where it is, because actually it may be that your capacity, that it feels like your capacity is this one teeny tiny thing. And actually you can do twice as much as that without pushing beyond your capacity. And by doing that, you are also going to feel more of the benefit of it, because you're going to get more of the change, which is going to help support you with what it is that you want to create. I don't, it looked like you were thinking or about to say something.
No,
And I think this is a really good time. Like obviously we wanted to leave you with something that we thought was going to be supportive through this period where we're not going to be releasing episodes. There might be a pop-up episode every now and again. We may decide to do that. We'll see how we feel. I've got some ideas of some little things that we might want to do in between. But for now, use this time to start to take care of yourself. Use this time to start to learn about meeting your needs better, because meeting your needs is the foundation of, I mean, literally, it's the foundation of everything we teach. Every episode, the needs are at the foundation of it. The better your needs are met, the more your needs are met, the easier change is, the easier discomfort is, the more confidence you're going to feel, the less imposter syndrome you're going to feel, the easier it is to take care of your kids because you have the resources to do it. The easier it is to take on challenges. The easier it is that when unexpected things come along, you got the capacity to deal with it. Like, this is your starting point. And so while you have this break where we're not releasing episodes every single week, there are 200 episodes. Go back and have a listen. Go into the episode guide and find the one, like, what is the episode or the episodes that really speak to where you're at right now in your life, and the things you might be most interested in changing, or the things you might be curious about, and the things you might think, oh, maybe there's something for me in that right now. That feels relevant right now. Start there and see what you can implement in terms of changes from the things in that episode. And then maybe, I mean, you know, we talk about, I don't think we've ever, I mean, certainly not any time recently have we done an episode where we haven't mentioned at least one other episode in the episode that we're talking about. We always reference multiple episodes. So maybe you use that as like a stepping stone. It's like, okay, so I'm going to start with this episode. Oh, they talked about that. That was interesting. Maybe I want to look into that a little bit more and learn a bit more about that. Maybe I want to make some change around that. And then you listen to that episode next. And then in that episode, there maybe there's something. So you can use them as like these like little stepping stones to start to move in the direction that you want to move in a way that feels relative to where you are right now and in alignment with your current capacity. And if all you do is you listen to one episode, but what you do is you apply the things that are in that episode between now and when we come back in September, I want you to imagine how it's going to feel in September to have made that change. Like, how will it feel if in September you look back and go, look, I did this one thing consistently all that time. Look at the difference it's made. Or I've done these little things here. Look at the difference in my life just in these couple of months. And imagine how that feels, and use that as your motivation. Use that as like you know how it's going to feel. You've got a good idea of how it's going to feel at that point, and use that as your reason for giving this a try. Because I started it in my late 20s. I wish I'd known about this sooner. I wish I'd started in my teens. I wish I'd been taught it as I was growing up as a kid. Mm-hmm. And the truth of the matter is I didn't. That's why we're here now. And Serena didn't. That's why she's here now. And that's why we're here now, is because we want you to be able to benefit in the way that we have from learning about these things and being able to start to create the things that we want more of, and starting to create those kinds of changes. And summer's a really good time to like use the daylight and the sunshine, obviously depending on where you are. I mean, I live in the tropics, it's sunny most of the year. So it's less relevant here. But it can be a time where it can, like, we really can feel like we've got the impetus, the energy to just try a little something. And it doesn't have to be this big thing. Start small and then build and build and build in a way that feels right for you, in alignment with your capacity. Anything you want to say before we finish up this season?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us.
Yes. Thank you for being here. And thank you for, we made some changes recently, and there's been some new things that we've been doing, and thank you for sticking with us through that. And also, we want to hear from you. Like, what is it that you really like about what we're doing? What are the episodes that really speak to you? What are the topics that you want us to do more of? What are the things that you want to hear more about? Because we have a few months now where we're actually not going to pause recording. I mean, we're going to take some breaks. Don't worry. We are going to do have some downtime in the summer, but we are actually going to still be recording episodes. So let us know what you want to hear about when we come back in the fall, and we'll do what we can to try and integrate those and make sure that we talk about those subjects as well. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We will not be back next week. We will be back in the fall with season 5. We look forward to seeing you then. Between now and then, remember to stay safe, take care of yourself, and continue to meet your own needs. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye, friends.
That's it for today.
If you like what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and give us a written review,
as it will help more people find us.
And remember, it's never too late to start learning how to better meet your needs.
Well, shit. It really is that simple.